This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. Want to remind you guys before we get to our special guest and Hayden Howerton breaking down SMU Pitt that we are presented by our friends at Status Jet. We'll get right into the podcast here after a couple of these. But hey, Status Jet hooked it up for our On the Pony Express subscribers that went to Duke last weekend. First class all the way. Handled everything you could imagine on their trip. So reach out to them today. Code PonyUpACC gets you a discount on a round trip flight. And that is something that you can't pass up with a couple more trips to go. You've got Louisville, or you've got Virginia coming up, and you've also got the SMU basketball slate coming up as well. So reach out to them today to get that discount on a round trip flight, and they will hook it up. David Henry and his team are ready to help you out. And also, we've got to remind you that we are also presented by our friends at Roback. Roback.com. You can get a sweet game day look from our friends at Roback. They can hook you up with that 20% off your first order at Roback.com, RHOBACK.com. It's a little bit cool now for the polos, but they're always a classic look, and you've got the quarter zip that you can throw over the top of it as well and hook it up for game day. As it is homecoming this weekend, it's time to rush that delivery on your first order with that 20% off code that is Pony Express 20. So reach out to or head to Roback.com today, get the SMU collection, and look great on game day with Roback. Welcome back to the On the Pony Express podcast. Now, we are happy to be joined not only by Hayden Howerton, regular contributor here on the podcast, but former SMU linebacker and captain Shaine Hailey, one of the members of a long time ago, one Stang Gang 17. Hayden, I'll let you take it away here, though, because you guys are former teammates. You guys played a lot of ball together. And bring us in on this one, because this is one that is pretty cool for me, because Shaine and I have seen a lot of each other lately. I know you guys spent a lot of time together as well, but this is a really special guest we've got on tap for today.
You know, Shaine was a 3-star.
Welcome back to the On the Pony Express podcast. Now happy to be joined by Hayden Howerton, one of our regular contributors here, a part of the On the Pony Express podcast. But we have a special guest now, Hayden. Let's bring him in right now.
A guy that I played a lot of football with, a big contributor for SMU, not just on the field, but off the field. This guy was a 3-star recruit coming out of Bishop Dunn High School. He was an all-state linebacker his junior and senior year. He's a member of Stang Gang 17. We went through the whole deal together. Captain, recipient of Jerry Levias's number 23, and also a AFCA Good Works team nominee, added to the Ruffle Trophy watch list. Wanted to introduce Shaine Hailey to the podcast.
Appreciate you all. Appreciate y'all for having me. It's an exciting time at SMU football, and I'm glad y'all can have me back here.
Man, we love having you around, man. But you're our first defensive guest here on the pod. So what are you thinking about Scott Simons and the job that he's done?
Man, it's great to see. It's great to see guys flying back, just flying to the ball. That's really all that I see every game that I've been, and that's really big. That's something that I took pride in myself. Just flying to the ball, and that kind of sets the standard for the season, kind of sets the standard for the defense as a whole. And then I key in a lot on the linebackers, so seeing how they fly to the ball, how they're getting hands on balls when it's a pass, and how they're in the backfield making plays. I'm excited. I'm also excited about the D-line and Isaiah Wacobia and those guys in the back, Jonathan McGill in the back end making it happen. So I'm sure it's a blessing to see, man.
Guys, Shaine knows a lot about football. I mean, I remember our senior year, we we were both in grad school. We were kind of on weird schedules. I'd come into the facility, I'd sit in the O-line room, and I'm like, freaking Shane changed all the film settings. So I knew he'd be in there right before I was. But Shane, did you know you wanted to play college football growing up? Was that kind of a lifelong goal? Kind of take us through, I guess, your journey until you got to SMU.
Yeah, so started off in Red Oak, Texas, about 30 minutes down south. Played football for a team called Red Oak Longhorns, and then also played for a team right in the heart of Southern Dallas, St. Phillips. Ended up really was a big Texas guy growing up, just because that was the team that I was playing for, the Red Oak Longhorns. And then just ended up going through middle school and high school, really starting to focus in, like, man, I can do this thing. Like, we can make something happen. Ended up going to Bishop Dunn, where I played 3 years on varsity, won one state championship, and played with a lot of very, very good guys. A lot of guys went to the next level, and then some went to the NFL after that as well. But man, it's just it was a great journey to be able to see that I could, all my work that I put in, in high school, could transfer into college, and I could get an education first off, and second, be at a school where we were changing the program.
Was that time at Bishop Dunn just so kind of where you learned how to be so competitive? I mean, you aren't the tallest guy in the world, but like, you bet on obviously yourself, and you were able to get to SMU and get to the college level and have a hell of a career. I mean, you were around some really good players and guys that, I mean, probably didn't have as good of a career as you did, despite going to maybe some other schools or bigger programs.
Yeah. I mean, like you just said, man, it was really, like Hayden alluded to earlier, it was really a lot of the time that I spent watching film, doing all the extracurricular activities, as far as drills, as far as getting better off the field, that propelled me and got me to where I was in college. And even in college, like, I wasn't the biggest, fastest, strongest guy, but y'all knew I was going to work hard, and I was going to do my assignment and know where everybody else was. So it definitely transferred when I got to college.
As far as recruiting went with that, was SMU your biggest? Were you kind of considering other schools? I don't remember how your recruiting looked. What was important was that you just ended up on the same team as me.
Yeah. Now, I really wasn't that big of a guy coming out of high school. It really wasn't that big of a super long, drawn out. Some guys have that drawn out process. Nah, mine, SMU came. My mom looked at me. She said, Shane, if you want to do business and you want to do business in Dallas, you might want to go to SMU to play football. And that's all I heard. And from that day on, I walked into Coach Morris. I said, look, I care about football. Football is going to be the number 2 thing, but I want you to know I'm coming here so that after college, I'm good.
No doubt. Yeah. Staying home in a great city and a great business opportunity, is unreal. But if you want, I mean, let's talk about Chad Morris and your linebacker coach, Van Malone, a little bit.
Yeah.
I've got good memories of those guys. I know you do too.
Yeah, I do, man. Starting just those home visits that we used to go, like, literally walking down to Coach Morris's house. Hayden, I don't know if you were there that night. It might have been, it was you. It was either you or Turner. But we just unexpectedly went to Coach Morris's house on like a Tuesday night, and he looked at, he was like, what are y'all? Okay, come on in. And I was like, all right, this is what football is about. Like, let's actually talk about what the business of football is. Let's talk about how we can, learn and grow from each other while our time is here, and then move on from that. But man, that first year was crazy, Hayden. Like 2-a-days, walking in there, and we knew we were gonna play, and it was wild looking at each other like, man, do you know what we're doing right now? And we all didn't know.
No doubt, man. Yeah, that first year was a lot of ups and downs. I mean, obviously leads to Coach Morris leaving. It is a business in college football as well. Talk about when Kaz Kazadi took over, and a guy that really helped change the culture of our program.
Yeah, no, Kaz was the real deal. It was nobody. Look at my Twitter.
I had to pull that up. I was trying to get it before we transitioned, but yeah, man. How about that? I could find anything on there. ESPNU, dude, big deal.
Nah, that was for my other teammates. We had some guys on that. Like, it was some guys on our team. Hayden and those guys, they used to act we just came from a private school. No, sir. It's the real deal.
Taps is big time football too.
Man, now it is, but when we were playing, we really weren't playing anybody. It was all right, but yeah, it's just a great time, man. I'm excited to talk about why. I don't even know where we are.
I've got another one for you here. Hey, you picked up your offer. Let's go to this if you remember.
Yeah.
May 12th, you picked up your offer. You committed 8 days later. Is that out quickly?
Please.
Look at that, man.
That's wild.
Crazy.
No, like I said, man, that like the day afterwards, the day after I got a scholarship from SMU, my mom looked at me. She said, "If you want to do business, stay here." And that was all I saw, man. That's a crazy picture. I never got to wear two.
Mason Gentry behind you. I don't know.
You still got a single digit.
Yeah.
Anyway, trip down memory lane. Continue, Hayden. Sorry, I almost made it before the full transition.
No, you're good. Just ask you about like the transition of the culture with Kaz taking over.
Nah, man, that was crazy. Just that first spring that he got there and having to carry around water bottles for the first time in class and having to do up downs and having to like really have to rethink who we are as people, as winners and as people that really go out and compete and do that at a high level every time. That was a big transition. I know for a lot of guys, we just didn't have that, with the prior staff. And I think he came in and did a great job, especially with the mental part of the game, but also with the physical. I mean, I know I gained 20 pounds that first semester that he was there. And it was probably 15 pounds of muscle and another 5 of fat. I don't know the big margins, but it definitely was a lot of weight that we got put on. So it was great to have him there, be able to talk to Kaz. And, we like to say it, he was really the sensei. He really ran the program, and Coach Dykes was the one, who put everybody in place and really managed everything. But he was definitely a lifeline and a heartbeat of the team.
Yeah, you got to give Kaz Kazadi a lot of credit. Definitely, if Dykes is the number one, if he's the president, Kaz was the vice president of our program. But you definitely took advantage of Cox School of Business and everything. I want to say you had an internship what felt like every summer. I mean, talk a little bit about that and I guess some of the influential people you met at SMU that helped make all that happen.
Yeah, so my freshman year, like I said, and like I've kept on alluding to, I really used SMU as a tool for, growing myself outside of college football alone and being able to help propel myself through life. And, my first internship was actually with a lady named Maggie Parker, who was a commercial real estate developer. And the company's called Innovate Neighbors. And she's an impact developer. She gave me an internship, taught me about some real estate, then went to JBJ the second, and then ended up at Northmark with Dion Green, another alumni. And that's really where the Life After Ball program came into play. And Miss Lisa Rollins came and really helped us get into that company and really start learning commercial real estate, in which I am in now. So it's truly a blessing to get there. And then after that, it was about time to wrap it up and actually head into the real world. So those 3 things happening back to back summers was the best thing that I could have done, just because it didn't take that much time to learn that much information and get that much further ahead of the curve than everybody else.
Lisa Rollins is definitely a very underrated asset for the program.
Mm-hmm.
You're still involved with Life After Ball, right? Are you helping the guys now on the team?
A little bit here and there. If it's like a special case where I know a guy from Dallas, or like if they need something, I'm a holler back. But I think right now I'm just focusing on myself, building my business, so I can come and provide real internships and guidance for these guys.
Your business, your music, and the Detente Collective. I mean, you're doing a lot of things. Can you spill some secrets, on a couple of these things? Kind of talk about
it's that focus. And honestly, I always been doing a lot. Like while I was at SMU, we had the Detente Collective Summer Jam with Rasan Kazadi, Reagan McGinnis, and Sam Westfall. And that was like 300 people in the middle of the summer, and we had classes and all that stuff. So really it kind of just propelled me, like I said, into into the career that I'm in now, staying focused every day. And I love music, is my passion, so I can just do that on my free time. But really being able to, multitask is something student athletes do, and that's easy to us, man.
What any like memories from SMU and just kind of your career that really stick out to you, game wise, and just kind of looking back on your playing days too?
Yeah. I'll say the best memory that I've had was that last year we played TCU, my senior year, the year I was a captain, and we got to really like show them like this is not the old times. This is not what y'all think it is. Like Dallas is here to stay, SMU is here to stay, and we're not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. So like really being able to do that and have a C on my chest, that meant something to me, because prior years I really wasn't playing that much. So it really wasn't that as impactful, but I feel like I had a great impact on that game. So that was one of my fondest memories for sure.
I'll second that. Yeah, that game was awesome. We talk about it all the time, but God, that was so great.
Makes a once a show appearance, it seems like, as it should.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Like, with everything that you're doing, what are your goals, long term, and what are you kind of focused on to get them now?
Yeah,
you've always been super driven.
Yeah, and still am. I think one of my biggest goals is to continue to grow my commercial real estate development company called Make Do Ventures. We specialize in impact projects. We specialize in retail, multifamily, housing, and then also just making sure that we have our one-offs in single family residential and building nice products. But outside of that's a job, right? That's something that we all need to do to make money. But my passions are in community impact, and then also in music. So with music, just continue to be an artist, continue to share the things that I see. If it's a good weekend of Duke and SMU and I have something to say about it, I might put it on the mic or play an instrument to it. But other than that, like I said, impacting the community, giving back to those that giving to me, and then also, showing these kids that are in Southern Dallas, that are in Dallas and as a whole, that there's ways to, make money, make a living without doing, some of the things that we all have always seen, rapping and going to the league. We can do those things and use them as a means to an end, as Kyle used to say, to get to a point where we can, further our appetite for different businesses and different ways of life. So I'm truly excited for the future and always driven.
Yeah, I remember you and on move-in day to the dorms, like, we're bringing in, PlayStation, mini fridges. You and Judah Bell are bringing in like keyboards, guitars.
Yep. Me and Judah just had a session probably 2 months ago. Like we've kept in touch this whole time. That brotherhood does not go away. Like we've been making music for a very long time.
I love to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Shane, all right, we'll leave you with this. You went on the road the last two games.
Yeah.
Unless I missed you at Louisville, but I saw you at Stanford.
Yeah.
Isaiah Wachovia was talking to you a little bit from the field. I saw that. And you were at Duke as well. What were your takeaways kind of as a whole the last two games, and kind of maybe obviously defensively everything's kind of gravy for the most part. Obviously you could always get better, but what were your takeaways overall?
Man, so I've taken a different stance on how I view football now that I'm in the stands for full time. So being able to just see those guys, like I said earlier, fly around, those guys are making plays and it looks like they're having fun. But more importantly, when they get back to the sideline, you can see how serious they are on the adjustments and how they need to execute on the next drive. And that showed up, especially in the Duke game, as they had to continue to fight those battles. But moreover, in that Stanford game, man, I don't know. Hey, man, it was nobody in the crowd. Like COVID time, nobody in the crowd, and just to come all that way and still have to have some type of spirit to play. That's a hard task to do for anybody, let alone the guys on defense that really aren't getting as much emphasis with those type of teams. So I mean, man, I'm glad to see that they're fighting hard. I'm glad to see that they run to the ball. That's my favorite thing. And also, I'm just glad to see that they're having fun and popping bottles on the sideline.
Big culture shift on defense and teams. We talk about it on this show pretty much every week.
Yeah.
I mean, you, Delano, were big parts of that as well because you guys played that way as well.
Yeah. And I mean that goes to all the guys in front of us: Pat Nelson, Richard Moore, Delonte, Rodney, hopefully Brandon Stevens, all those guys, Dembo, like all those guys that were with us. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody, but all those guys that were with us really making plays, like they set the standard. And I mean, once it was set, we already knew what the rest was going to be.
You got a prediction for Saturday? Are you going to be on campus? Are you free?
Yeah, I'm gonna come to the game. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. We need to win.
All that matters.
Yes, that's all that matters. Let's get a W in the columns, and then we'll talk about the rest tomorrow. The 6 turnovers, and we still win. We're a good team. We're gonna do it.
You're a defensive guy, but you did spend some time around Coach Lashley. Like, what have you thought about the way he's building the program? And there's a couple guys that he's kept around, like guys like Scott Natty, and Coop is back. But yeah, what have you thought about just the program overall?
Man, I think it's ran really professionally. I really like the way that the guys walk around. It looks like they all just have the SMU attitude, which is big. We come here to do our job, and on the weekends we're having a good time. And I mean that's nothing but the truth. You see it through the week. They're practicing. You can tell that they know their game plans. You can tell that they're executing what Coach Lashley and the OC and DC is giving them to them. And then Saturday, it's time to party. It's time to have a good time. So I'm excited just to be around it, like I say, and the professionalism is at a different level.
Helps when you have the Weber end zone complex and you get insane.
Yes, insane, dog. That's what really brought them over the top. Once you get the end zone like that, man, you can't do anything but walk around in suits and stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, this has been a blast, Shane. It's been fun seeing you on the road. Nice couple surprises the last 2 weeks or 2 games. You even made a press conference appearance too at Stanford. You stuck your way in, so maybe a career in media as well for you.
Nah.
We're stoked to have you on the podcast, and we'll have to have you back because we need the defensive guys represented as well. So we'll see you Saturday, and thanks for doing this, Shane.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Appreciate y'all.
Shane, thanks, man.
Always.
Hayden, that was such a blast having Shaine Hailey on. Appreciate Shane's time with us on the Pony Express podcast. And before we continue, I want to remind you guys we are presented by our friends at AKM Turfing Greens. Info at akmturfinggreens.com. Head to their Instagram. They just posted a bunch of updates. They got a bunch of work done lately on some of these yards around the DFW area. And this is one we've shown you a couple times now, but just the attention to detail, all the drainage, the putting greens, the green space to entertain. Use code PONYUP for $500 off your project today. Get your backyard situated just in time for Thanksgiving outside or celebrating the holidays outside in your backyard that is pristine and maintained all year round with that turf. So info at akmturfinggreens.com or go to akmturfinggreens.com for more information on how they can change your backyard for the better. Hayden, this is a big one. Top 20 matchup in Ford Stadium. Pitt Panthers coming in to Dallas to face SMU. And it's been previewed a lot across the country. We're going to keep it rolling here as well. You got the national reporters commenting on quarterback situations. This is why you join the ACC if you're SMU. All the attention on a weekend with Penn State, Wisconsin, of course, or Penn State, Ohio State coming up this weekend. But the other big game is SMU Pitt.
You never want to make a game bigger than it actually is. Fortunately for us, I think this game does live up to the hype. I mean, we have an undefeated ACC team coming to Dallas in November when we're also undefeated in the ACC. I mean, this is unreal. This is everything an SMU fan has hoped and dreamed for the last 30 plus years, to get back into a power conference and have a big game that means something late in the season. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I think this is the biggest game in Ford Stadium history. I mean, I know I've said that twice already this year, but that's what happens when you keep winning. I mean, I thought TCU was going to be one of the biggest games. Last at home Iron Skillet, took care of business there. Florida State, which feels forever ago now, but that was our most recent home game. First ACC game. There was a lot of pressure for SMU to go out and perform against a bad Florida State team, and we played awesome. And Pitt is thinking the same thing we are. If win out and you possibly earn a spot in the playoff as an at-large if you don't get into the ACC championship. And I think Louisville beats Clemson this weekend, but, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So I wanted to break down a little bit of the history of Pitt football. A very historic program, has won a lot of games in all of its years, but started football in 1890 as Western University of Pennsylvania. So they're in their 134th football season. WP was the first team to put numbers on the uniform, so that tells you how long they've been playing football. They became the University of Pittsburgh in 1908. They adopted the Panthers as the mascot in 2009. They were an independent program forever until 1991. And then, have you heard of Pop Warner? He was the head coach for 10 seasons for the Pitt Panthers. 3 national championships, 33 straight wins. I mean, you think of the history of football, Pitt Panthers is pretty intertwined. Had the first football game radio broadcasted. It was Pitt in 1921. I mean, a very historic and great program. And then you fast forward to the 70s, and everybody associates Dan Marino with the Panthers. 3 straight 11-1 seasons between 79 and 81. They won a bowl game in all of those seasons. The 1980 Pitt Panthers alone had 7 first-rounders and 23 players who started at least one NFL game. And then, of course, in 1983 on New Year's Day, they lost to SMU in the Pony Express. Eric Dickerson, Craig James beat them in the Cotton Bowl. In Marino's senior year, Don Shula ends up drafting Dan Marino as the 6th quarterback off the board in the first round in the Dolphins. And some other famous Pitt alum, you got Larry Fitzgerald, Darrelle Revis, Cowboys running back Tony Dorsett, Mike Ditka, all Pitt Panthers. And so they joined the Big East in 91. They joined the ACC in 2013. They were dodging SMU. Pitt claims 9 national championships. 8 were before World War II, but their most recent is 1976. They got 3 conference championships, 2 in the Big East, 1 in the ACC, which is 2021, which was the Kenny Pickett fake slide. And then played for the 2018 ACC championship as well when they lost to Clemson. But more recently, they've had a revival. They fired their offensive staff this offseason. They went 3-9 last year. Pat Narduzzi doesn't care for the transfer portal and NIL, and he doesn't want a bunch of prima donnas on his team. And hey, you know what? It's paid off. They're 8-0. They're having an unreal season, but it's all going to come to a point here on Saturday night when they come to Ford Stadium.
A little hint into the prediction there for Hayden coming out early in this podcast. But hey, when it comes to Pitt, a ton of great history there. Actually saw Larry Fitzgerald checking out Cameron Indoor before the SMU Duke game. I was in Cameron Indoor in the lobby, kind of looking at their I was hoping to see the actual, floor, but I kind of peered in there through the window. The nice ladies at the front, let me, at least, poke my head in there. And when you walk into Cameron Indoor from that side that I was on, which is close to the stadium, I guess there's continued wall of Hall of Fame situation, like trophies and jerseys and more things for tour. And there was Larry Fitzgerald, checking it out. And I was like, oh my God, no wonder there's no tours allowed today. So what a beast. He was there checking out, the program, I guess. I don't know. He was there after the Thursday game at Pitt, where he was, I believe, an honorary captain, or definitely did some stuff with ESPN or whatever. So what a stud.
Larry legend.
That signature helmet that he wore. Others wore it too, but I always think of that helmet with the face mask with Larry Fitzgerald. So what a boss. They are 8-0. They have made a big statement in the past week and a couple days with that interception festival against Syracuse's Kyle McCord. Poor guy. After having a really good start to the year for McCord, he got intercepted, I believe, 5 times, unless one of them was off a backup or something. But I don't think they pulled him. Yeah, 5 times, 3 pick sixes. And this goes right into one of your keys to the game, because SMU has to protect the football.
Got to be ball security. I mean, after last week, with basically giving Duke the opportunity to beat us every chance they could, and we were able to take care of business. That's not going to happen this week if we do that again. Pitt's too good. And so we got to win the turnover battle first and foremost, and we got to control the clock. And, that comes with running the football. But my second big key is we got to win in the red zone. I mean, we got stopped on the goal line versus Duke. We needed points. We're not going to be able to come away with nothing this week in the red zone. Duke has a really strong kicker. They're going to be able to hit from basically anywhere. So we're going to need to come away with touchdowns versus field goals to counteract that. So you think about the BYU game, and if we were just a little bit better in the red zone, we'd have come away with a victory. We're going to need that to be big for us this week as well. And then finally is get KJ going early. Yes, start fast. Yes, keep his confidence up by getting good completions. But I'm more talking about that because Pitt is a great rushing defense, as we'll get to. So are we, but this is the best one we've seen across from us so far this year. And we could need Kevin to win this game through the air. And so I want him to get his confidence back. I want him to get those easy completions so he can start using all the talent that he's got later in this game and zinging him in there the way he was late, against Duke when he's really trying to make something happen. I mean, he didn't lose his confidence against Duke, which I was relieved about. I mean, he's looked good, I heard, in practice. Guys say he's in great spirits, and I think he's going to be fine coming out this week. I really do.
Yeah, I think when you look at this matchup, it's a best on best. If you're an offensive lineman like yourself, Hayden, you've got to enjoy the challenge here. And I kind of asked Red a little bit about it this week and said, hey, your rushing attack, one of the best in the ACC. Their rush defense, one of the best in the league and in the country. And to the same respect, Pitt, their run game with Desmond Reed, one of the best, one of the most explosive guys, going against SMU's defense and their run defense that is one of the best in the country. And we'll talk about that in a second in terms of the numbers. But when you're SMU and you look back on kind of where you've come from and how you got to this point, the best ball SMU's played has been that TCU, Florida State, Louisville stretch. I don't think there's any doubt. But you want to know what you did? You ran the ball right at a huge front in Florida State. You ran the ball against some dudes at Louisville. Obviously, TCU kind of has had a tough run defense or a tough time stopping the run this season. But that's where SMU can build off of what happened at Duke. You rushed the ball 50 times. It wasn't the most explosive and it wasn't 8 yards a carry, but you rushed for over 200 on the ground. And Brashard Smith led the way. If I'm SMU, I want to keep making a statement with that run game, and then you let Kevin find that groove again, and he hits those explosive plays that he did get a couple of against Duke.
100% agree with you there. We've built the foundation of our offense right now on running the football. And when you think about what Rhett Lashley's done in the past, very explosive offenses, and you look at the stats, his best games are when we're running the ball 40-plus times, and you're just being efficient. You're staying ahead of the chains. I mean, we don't need Kevin to be Superman out there if we're efficient when we're running the football. And so Pitt's defense, we talked about it. The number that jumps off the page to me, they're 9th in rushing defense in the country. They got 93.3 yards per game is what they're holding their opponents to. They're 21st in the country in red zone defense. I mean, they're good when it matters. I mean, scoring defense, they're top third. Total defense, they're top third. 22 points per game, 349 yards per game. You compare that to SMU offensively. SMU offensively is 26th in total offense, 443.5 yards per game. Scoring, we're top 15, 39 points per game. Rushing, we're 23rd with 201 points per game. We have not been taken over by the Ashton Jonty imperialism board. Saw that earlier today on Twitter. But red zone offense, we're 91st in the country. That's not good. That is something that we have to improve on. We have to be better at. And then sacks allowed, this will be a big thing on Saturday. We're 20th in the country. Only 9 allowed on the season, which is really good up to this point so far. But Pitt has some good defensive players. I mean, they have a pair of really great outside linebackers. Kyle Lewis, Rasheem Biles. They're both good football players. Kyle Lewis, he has 3 interceptions on the year. Rasheem Biles, he only has 1, but he's added 4 sacks on top of that. I mean, these guys both have a nose for the football, and they're flying around trying to create some takeaways. And then Jimmy Scott, he's a pass rushing threat. He's got 4 sacks on the year, defensive lineman for them. D-end Nate Matlack, he's pretty solid as well. 6'5" D-end, adds a ton of length on the edge, and so Pitt overall this year, they've got 22 sacks on the year. But last week, Duke brought 24 into the game, and we only gave up 4 pressures. So this offensive line unit can get it done, but we're going to have to keep Kevin clean and limit hits on him, especially when he's nursing a little bit of an injury. And I know he's been practicing and has looked great, but we're going to have to keep him upright, keep him clean on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think I would love to do a little bit of a deep dive, and I'm sure one of our super analytical subscribers might do that. But the red zone is so interesting to me because early in the year it was such an adventure. I'd love to know a little bit more of a red zone in conference, or what our percentages in conference. And I still don't think the red zone offense is elite by any means. But I mean, you even look at the field goals. I was joking with somebody, or somebody was joking with me, that Colin Rogers hasn't even maybe kicked 1 red zone field goal. I mean, it's just kind of interesting. Like when you look at that portion of the field and how SMU's done since KJ's taken over, that's, I think, something where they can at least hang their hat on, because I think, and I, again, could be wrong, but I got to believe they're more in the upper half since KJ took over. I know the Duke game is a tough one, but the BYU game is the last time that, I feel like they really fell apart in the red zone before the Duke game. So I'm interested to see how that battle goes. And with the red zone defense for Pitt, that is in their right too. And I know we just kind of did this with Duke as far as who they played, but it's another game where another team has a chance to prove it against SMU, right? Like, and this is just my opinion. I know Pitt's ranked ahead of SMU. They happen to be undefeated. They have not played the schedule SMU has. And Pitt is going to have to show that this defense, which, like you said, 55th in total defense, not world beaters in that respect, but they take away the football. They do a lot of those things well. I'm just intrigued to see if we get the offense SMU was kind of having against Duke without the turnovers, and what that looks like if they correct those things, or if Pitt is able to capitalize for the second straight week on a good quarterback, at least from most of his season, and make him look super average again.
Yeah. I mean, SMU's offense had 480 yards last week. We just weren't able to capitalize because of the amount of turnovers. But you talked a little bit about their strength of schedule. I'm not sure what the number is that FBI or whatever is giving, but their best win is West Virginia. I mean, maybe Syracuse. I mean, they beat North Carolina by a touchdown. North Carolina gave up 70 to JMU. I mean, congrats. They only scored 17 versus Cal. They beat the hell out of Syracuse, but they lost to Stanford. I mean, Stanford shouldn't be a Power 4 football program. And they went to New York and beat their ass. So you don't want to overlook them. But, yeah, their strength of schedule is not very good. But just finishing up, I mean, their safety, I think they have a pretty good guy in coverage, and safety Javon McIntyre. I mean, he's the best graded player on their defense. He's 6'1", 195. He's got some length. He's been a starter for going on his second year for Pitt, but we're just going to have to be smart with our throws. And I know De'Aaron King has been in that meeting room with Kevin, and they've had a long conversation about everything that went down on Saturday night. With a great rushing defense, we're going to need to try to stay balanced, or it is going to be a long night. But again, I have confidence that I think we're going to be fine.
So funny enough, kind of gonna share with you that SMU's strength of schedule is 42nd and Pitt's is tied 22nd. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. I really don't. I get it. But or maybe it's their strength of schedule that's remaining or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, yeah. I can get that. Yeah, because our season is easier from here.
Yeah, so I don't know. Just interesting. Maybe I don't know.
TCU, all right, our best win. our best win is probably Louisville.
Louisville. Yep. Duke and Louisville, but Louisville.
Yeah, Duke and Louisville, who either of them would beat the hell out of West Virginia. So
yeah,
I guess that's
I agree.
I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was just interested to see because I was like, for example, the red zone thing. I'm claiming that SMU is better than 91st, but I guess I won't look that up. I don't want the double egg on my face. But seriously though, eye test does matter, and I don't know. And it doesn't mean that Pitt can't beat SMU. We just saw why Duke could have beaten SMU. They obviously had to force a bunch of turnovers to keep it close, but it'll be interesting to see. This is a very friendly facility for SMU football for the most part, outside of playing the Storm and Mormons. So Pitt's offense did get a boost. Hey, I used that from Pat McAfee, who said,
"No, that's great."
Yeah, a bunch. Tony Finau and BYU. Anyway, Pitt on offense, they did get a boost today, as Pete Thamel did report. Well, actually, Pat Narduzzi said on his radio show that Eli Holstein is cleared, so he will start this week for Pitt. He's a guy I know well from Louisiana, transferred from Alabama. Let's dive into the numbers, though, with Pitt.
Pitt's offense, they're 25th in yards per game. They have 0.1 yards per game more than us. We're 26th, they're 25th. Scoring, they're 6th in the country, 40.9 points per game. Rushing is only 64th, but like we'll get to, I think they have a really solid starting running back. I don't think they do it as consistently, and I don't know if they dive into it as much as SMU does. In the red zone, they're 21st in the red zone, and then sacks allowed, they're 90th in the country. They've given up 16 so far this year. So they're also going to be missing their left tackle. They're going to be missing redshirt senior left tackle Branson Taylor, a guy that's played a lot of football for them. He's out for the season, had season-ending surgery last week. So will be something to watch for our defensive line that's already been eating, and they're losing a big piece of their offensive line. Our defense right now, you look at the numbers up to this point in the season, we're 32nd in total defense. We've come a long way from being in the hundreds like we were, my early years at SMU, where you had to score 60 to win. 38th in scoring defense. We're giving up 21.38 points per game. We're 5th in rushing defense, better than Pitt. And then 64th in red zone defense. So almost right in the middle. But yeah, Eli Holstein, they announced that he's going to be playing. I mean, the Alabama transfer, he's a young guy. He's a redshirt freshman. He's one of the best young players in the country right now. I mean, we're going to have to deal with him for a few more years to come, but he is going to seriously develop into a hell of a player for Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, I like Eli a lot. Super athletic kid. He actually scored among the top Nike Spark ratings in the country as far as a quarterback goes when he was coming out of Zachary. Played at a couple different high schools, played behind another blue chip guy, Walker Howard at St. Thomas More, transferred to Zachary, a huge power in Louisiana, got some good coaching, ended up at Alabama, and couldn't be happier that he's found a really solid home in Pitt. He is kind of a hard-nosed player. He's not afraid to run the football. He's not going to be, in my opinion, like elite. I mean, he's better than Malik Murphy running the ball. And SMU's seen some better running quarterbacks than him, but he's athletic enough to extend plays and make it happen. And he has that toughness and way about him that is kind of perfect for Pitt, and what they are as a city and what they kind of represent over there. I think Desmond Reed is one of the best players in the country. Just gonna say, I mean, he does some special stuff out there. And Brashard Smith is kind of the perfect comp for him. And Brashard is one of the best players in the country right now. He was one of On3's impact transfers last week in week 9 with what he was able to do against Duke. And when they get going on offense, that means they also get to showcase their kicker.
This guy's got a lot of speed. I mean, he only has 89 carries for 541 yards, but that comes out to 6.1 yards per carry. I mean, if this guy gets past the safety, you ain't catching him. So we're going to need to do everything we can to make sure that the backside corner's not having to get chase downs, because it ain't going to happen, guys. So his 6.1 yards per carry, you're comparing him to Brashard. I mean, Brashard has 6.4 yards per carry. I mean, they're very, very similar. Brashard has a little more volume on the season. That's why Brashard's at 117 for 745 and 9 touchdowns so far this year. But I think Desmond Reed does a lot better job in the pass game. I mean, he's second on their team in receptions and touchdown receptions. 25 receptions, 4 touchdowns so far this year. Their leading receiver, Kanata Mumpfield, 27 receptions, 473 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then kind of an X factor for them as well, they have a great kicker. He's perfect on the year. 33 straight extra points, 12 for 12 on his field goals, and he has a long of 58. So it's going to be one of those deals where they get past midfield. I mean, they're pretty much in range at that point. So we're going to have to play great defense and make sure it's not death by 1,000 cuts when they're kicking 6 field goals.
All right, you want to get into some predictions here?
Yeah, let's do it. So I'll go first. These are 2 really close teams, guys. Really close. I think they both have great young quarterbacks. I think they're both kind of chasing what they were in the past, Pitt and what they were, early 20th century, SMU kind of getting back to what we were in the Pony Express era. We're both trying to reach an ACC championship and chase down a couple powerhouse programs, in Miami and Clemson. I mean, statistically, we're very similar. It seemed like every stat I looked at, we were like 2 spots away from each other. Great defense, especially against the run. Offenses are averaging, 40 points a game between the two. It's going to be a war, no matter who has the ball. Some weeks it's okay. It's going to come down to, SMU's offense versus Duke's defense, and we know our defense will be able to take care of business. It is going to be all 3 phases for both teams are going to be great. That's kind of another reason why I think game day or whoever should have come to this game. I think there's going to be some great football in Dallas on Saturday night. I mean, talked a little bit about the Pitt strength of schedule. This is their first big test, I believe. And I think this game is hard to predict. If this game was in Pittsburgh, I don't know if I would openly say it, but behind closed doors, I would probably be picking Pitt to win, at Heinz Field. I mean, I know it's another name, but to me, it's always going to be Heinz. But
Yep.
Fortunately for us, the game's in Dallas. Home field advantage has proven to be huge in this conference for most teams. We've been able to do a great job with our 9-game road winning streak, and it's time to come home and be in front of the city of Dallas. I mean, I don't think the Cowboys are Dallas's team anymore with as we've seen how this city has turned on them. I think that's the SMU Mustangs now. I think this defense is going to show up the way they have all season, and I think offense is going to take care of the football, and I think we're going to do enough to get our best win in years. I got SMU 27, Pitt 17.
Yeah, I've really struggled with the total on this game because Vegas has it at 58.5. Now, weather could be hanging around Dallas.
Yeah.
Who knows how that impacts the game or if at all. But one thing I do know, I like SMU by a touchdown, and I feel like this is a get-right game for this offense. They've shown more often than not this year with Kevin Jennings at the helm as the starter that they're going to be able to cook a little bit. And, man, you look at SMU's defense, yeah, they got a couple turnovers forced at Stanford, but they really haven't, asserted themselves with a game-changing play in a minute for that defense. You know what I mean? I know they sealed the game against Louisville, but didn't get a turnover against Duke. I think they get a couple against Holstein since conference play. I want to believe he's kind of, not been bad by any means as far as holding onto the football and not turning it over, but his touchdown to interception ratio isn't what it is over the course of this season. So I think SMU is going to grab a couple of interceptions. I think they're going to be able to control the football, and I think they're going to be able to run on Pitt. I think just the way Rhett Lashley presents things in the run game and what SMU's offensive line has shown, pretty much all year long, they are going to be able to run the football. Burchard looked much better against Duke. He's definitely dealing with something, just the way he's spinning and trying to avoid a little bit of contact here and there. But he's been dynamic, and he's still been able to get his, and LJ Johnson coming off a solid showing too. And they're going to pair together in that backfield, and Kevin's going to figure out how to hold on to the football this week, and they're going to be fine. And I got SMU winning 35-24. I know that's a little bit larger than a touchdown, but I just think SMU at home and the way SMU's played in the ACC at home says a lot to me. and they're going to get this one done. 2 big wins earlier this year with Kevin at the helm with TCU and Florida State. This team doesn't have a lot of panic in them. They're not panicking after last week. They're not panicking that they haven't gotten their interceptions or their fumbles, and club takeaway was I don't even know if Durham has a club anyway, so they probably couldn't go, but they just weren't able to do it last week. I think both sides get right this game. SMU improves to 8-1 and really cement themselves ahead of the first college football playoff ranking with a strong position for down the stretch of this season, and sets up for a massive rematch against BC just ahead of our trip to Charlottesville too.
Win by 1, win by 100 on the road. It doesn't matter. At home is where you dominate. And I think we're going to be fired up to be back in front of the people of Dallas.
Indeed. All right. You want to hit them with some answers to what the people have asked at ontheponyexpress.com. You could join ontheponyexpress.com today. 50% off annual subscriptions are going on right now. It's homecoming week. We're celebrating with that. So head to ontheponyexpress.com right now and ask us questions or just hang out and chat with us. But all right, here we go. You bumped this morning. We've got a few questions to roll through. FW Silver asks, how close are Jackson Lavender and Jamarian Carroll to being able to contribute?
I think that's more of a you question, to be honest. I'm not in the building every day. I'm not around practice the way that you are. So where would you think that is?
Yeah, I think both are products right now of having a bunch of veteran receivers ahead of them, and they haven't probably gotten the opportunities that I don't even want to say they should, just because they have so many veterans ahead of them. But Jamarian came in, and I think he spent the first year just adding mass. And I saw Jamarian in high school, and he did some crazy stuff for Wichita Falls rider out there, and really was highly touted, 4-star for on 3. And I think his story is still being written. I think he's got an opportunity next year to maybe be that 3rd, 4th receiver if it goes well. I think one thing that talking with sources is that SMU might want to get a little bit bigger at the slot. So like, think when Rasheed was playing there, even James was, I don't know how they really stack up, but James, when he played the slot, I felt like he was bigger than, Rod and Jake. I just think in this league, they want to be a little bit bigger. So I would almost watch for maybe Jamarian to find a way onto the field there. And then Jackson Lavender plays that slot receiver as well. And he's shifty. He's, cagey with the ball in his hands. He could be somebody that really helps in the return game. And he is, he really works hard. Coach's kid, all the cheesy, corny things to say, that's who he is. And he's got, his head down, trying to continue to get better. He's battled with some injuries here and there. So is Jamarian. So their year is next year to really show it, in my opinion. So we'll kind of see if they can take the ball in the spring and run with it. I'm sure they'll bring in a transfer. We'll see who comes back and things like that. But so next year is where we'll be at least watching. Stangs 2019, where does this game rank in terms of biggest games at Ford? And we kind of answered this already.
Yeah, biggest, I think, in my memory, you think of the only other ones that I can even compare it to, that's 2020 Cincinnati in front of, 8,000 people, and Desmond Ritter. You can't really classify that as a big game. And then all the other ones are road games in my career, at Memphis in 19, the pair of TCU games. So yeah, I think this is number 1 in recent memory.
Yeah, even Florida State and TCU this year. It's because it's such a big conference implication type of game. It just has to be bigger. There might have been more fanfare. Like, one thing I'll say about this game is I said on ACCPM, it doesn't look like Pitt fans are going to travel maybe as well. It might be, because it's homecoming, it might be more of an SMU crowd, and Pitt fans are coming out of the woodwork being like, we travel. So we'll find out just how well. But
they're saying they're going to buy the untransferable student tickets. So
yeah, I guess so. Smarter Budweiser, what are the differences between Duke's defense and Pitt's? Which defense is a tougher matchup for offense? How big of an advantage did Duke have simply because of the Diaz familiarity with Rhett Lash's offense?
I think Manny Diaz's familiarity with Rhett, I think that was a huge part of why they were able to do what they did on Saturday, honestly. I mean, I think Pitt has a better run defense, but I don't know if that's as big of an advantage as some people make it out to be because of what we go against every day in practice. I mean, at the first period of every practice, we're going good on good. And then same with when we do team run, we're good on good. You do one-on-one pass rushing, you do pods. I mean, the starters probably get if anywhere from, I would say, 15 to 25 reps a day against each other, where it's not really like in the NFL where it's, you're against scouts other than one period at the end, against the other starters, because you're trying to keep guys healthy for that insanely long season. So I would say the biggest difference is I think Duke's defense had a little better pass rushers. I think Pitt's is a little bit by committee. There's a ton of guys with 3 or 4 sacks. Pitt has, or excuse me, Duke had a couple guys with 5, and 7. So that's kind of the biggest difference I can see.
And then we move on to where'd my thread go? Okay, there it goes. Comment 7777. What do you think the O-line can work on given the 4-play goal line stop by Duke last week? In my opinion, that stop changed the dynamic of the game. Well, maybe not, since we did score right after to go up 21-7, but still.
It definitely takes the wind out of your sails when you get stopped 4 straight times on the 1-yard line, or less. What I always did on the goal line is I went in a 4-point stance. I mean, at that point, especially under center, you're running the ball, or at worst, it's some kind of jet sweep where you better look like you're running the ball anyway. So something to work on. I mean, I don't think Garen Justice is a big guy when it comes to the 5-man sled, which that's very old school, to be fair. Not many people do the 5-man sled anymore. There's not much to be said about having your butt up, head down, driving a 5-man sled until you get tired. But maybe we do, some board drills or, some of that, a little bit old school stuff just for that. But you also don't want to change who you are. You know what I mean? We all already have so much stuff to work on in practice in such limited time that do you really want to waste a lot of time when you can just make sure you emphasize the stuff you do already? Like your run blocking combos, you can do those under the chute and you get the same amount of work. You're just emphasizing pad level now.
Yeah, I think it's not safe to say, but pretty safe to say it's kind of an anomaly, this year. I think SMU's been really strong in goal line short yardage this year. Yeah. So I know it's different, backs against the wall, things like that. The play calling was different, but SMU got into the end zone. It might have been against Houston Christian, but so it's a little different, but on a QB sneak with Kevin. Maybe I'm misremembering or something, but I thought that happened. So
we have been good inside the 5, though. I mean, I remember a rushing touchdown against Louisville. That's what was weird with that one is, and I said it on the Duke recap, if we had been so good in short yardage, but you do it enough, you're going to get stopped eventually.
True. And SMU's been able to move the ball. So good problem to have for the Mustangs. And then you get down to Pitt having the 9th best rush defense. Good news is our O-line faces a better one in practice, but nonetheless, how do we prepare for this game when we know getting the run game established will be a key to winning?
You don't got to be something you're not. I mean, we've done such a good job running the football against good run defenses already. I mean, Louisville, I want to say, was a top 20 run defense as well, and we were able to run the ball for 150 plus against them. So you just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to have wrinkles. We're going to have, plays. Like I remember one where we'd be in 11 personnel. We'd have the tight end off the ball on the front side, and we would basically run it that way with him lead blocking. And we ended up putting in this wrinkle to where we actually would have him fold back in a split motion, but onto the backside linebacker. And so you really got that split motion rock of the linebackers, but you still were locking it on the backside with the offensive line so you could run an RPO off of it. There's always things like that when you go into a game week of how can we mess with the other team and throw off what we've been doing all year already to game plan them.
I think one thing, if SMU does have Justin Osborne back, and probation coach on the board said this as well, and I think J.O. play, but, I mean, he is starting right guard for a reason, and I think he was out on one or two of those plays. But I will say Ben Sparks played really well the rest of the game. So that's the nice thing about SMU's offensive line. They are too deep there. So I don't know if that is anything worthwhile, but that was, I believe, when Ben came like into the game, maybe a little bit cold off the bench. So
yeah, obviously Jo is our starter. Jo has a lot of talent. We've invested a lot into Jo because he's going to be a guy that's going to be in NFL training camp next year. But I like Ben. I'm a little biased.
No, I do too.
I played with him. He wears my number, which I give him some ribbing about. But he plays the right way. Ben's tough. He's always trying to finish people. Him and Logan are great friends, and they're both like that.
Yeah. No, I didn't know if it was more like coming in cold that, you're thrust into it right for one play.
That's definitely hard. I mean,
yeah. So, all right, we continue on with, I'm going to save this question for the last, because I do like, I like it. It's a fun one to end on. Yep. Cool. Glad we're on the same page. This is why we're doing this. Pony Up Dallas does ask, forecasted for rain, possibly heavy. How do you think this hampers each team?
I think that favors us, honestly. I think we're a better overall running the ball team. The stats say it. Eli Holstein, he throws pretty well, but I think if it's a torrential downpour and they have to go to the run, I mean, it could just be a slugfest. But I think we're the better rushing yards per game, and we have the better rush defense. So I think that favors us if that happens.
Austin, Texas Pony. I'd like to know how the SMU Scout team works and their weekly schedule. He capitalized Scout. I kind of thought he was asking about my Scout.com days back then. But I was on Scout team. You've never even known. Well, yeah, a
couple weeks.
Did you know any Scout team?
I think I would take
school
like a couple periods early at SMU, and then I would go with the offensive group. But at least my later years, so they had, I think it was called the Red Group, maybe, but you do everything that the starters do or that the team does, but just during the scouts is the periods that it's called. You're running cards. So a GA or whoever will have a card, and for the defensive guys, you have the D line and the linebackers GA, and then you have a coverage GA as well. And they're telling all the guys what to do and whatnot. It's on the other side, it's the same thing. You have a offensive line, and then you have all the skills guys for the defensive guys. But later in the week, they do scouts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday's a walkthrough, which is easy. They're basically glorified blocking dummies at that point because you're not going hard. Then on Friday, at least at SMU, Kaz called it the Agogi workout, and it was some crazy workouts. Like, all right, we're gonna have 20 sets of leg press. It'll start with 20 plates on. You do one rep, you take one plate off. Where by the time you get to the bar, it feels like you're maxing out. But yeah, and then those guys have Saturday off, Sunday off, Monday off, and then practice Tuesday. So like, I would always give Stone Eby a hard time back in his D-line days. He'd be that was his game day, was going against me, and I'd be sore as hell from the last game, and I'd be like, "Can you chill out?" But no, it was good times. Those guys are super important to the program. They make us better. They give us the looks that it takes to play on Saturday.
Stone is this year's Tyler Veen in terms of guys I'd like to have a beer with on the team for sure.
100%.
Or maybe like 80 of them. But that's another story.
H-Town.
Yeah, for now. Live pod. H-Town Pony. What does KJ and or the coaching staff need to do to get his performance back on track? Play calling, passing schemes can help. It seems much of the success is a direct result of his decision-making, RPO, and scramble situations. His ability to keep a play alive and create opportunities is somewhat uncoachable. Just great feel and instincts. You don't want to force too much change, short amount of time. What kind of adjustments can be made this week for Saturday night?
I don't think you make any adjustments, to be honest, as far as you don't want to keep him tight. So, hey, Kevin, 5 points of contact when you're running the ball, and when you're throwing, just be smarter. Try to anticipate the throws earlier. Don't throw in a double coverage. But if you give him too much to think about, he's going to get tight, and he's not going to be the same Kevin Jennings that we know and love.
Yeah, I would say that they need to do just that as well. And SMU's been able to kind of let him be him. And even Rhett was on Gramlich and McLean podcast this week and kind of said, eventually he was like, you can emphasize, you can do drills, but like, guys, hold on to the football. It is the football, the ball, the ball, the ball. So that is what we're going to be watching closely with Kevin. Alan Stang, favorite uniform combo for home and away?
I mean, this one, the white Dallas jersey I got behind me, I love that one for the away. And then at home, I liked the classic, just the classic blue look. The regular red pony, classic blue uniforms.
That is where I'm at as well. Did you have any superstitions as it relates to your playing days? What are some of the crazier ones you saw or heard of?
For me, it was no shaving on game day. That was more when I was in high school and we weren't allowed to have beards. In college, though, like I always kept the same routine. So like before games, I would turn on Houston Texans radio because I grew up in Houston, and I would listen to the radio calls from the Texans games. And that would help me get my mind focused. And I would always play that. Like I wouldn't watch TV. Like I would just be listening to the radio. And that really helped me visualize what I was getting ready to go do. I'm a big believer in visualization. That's something my dad, coached me to do growing up, is the night before the game, when you're laying in bed, think about making that massive block, or back in my defensive days, making a big sack or whatever, because you'll trick your mind into doing things that you otherwise wouldn't, if that makes sense. But some of the crazier ones I saw or heard of, I mean, some of it was guys like, oh, I go get sushi in any city we play in, where it's like, all right, that's a little dangerous when we're playing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But
Yeah.
but
God.
just things like that. Lucky underwear, like things like that.
Yeah, I'm a big visualization guy before my beer league hockey games. So, Pony 98, it helps. It helps. With Pitt running quarters and a heavy blitzing team, where do you think our offense can find holes other than deep go routes to throw the ball? Are there any running plays that you would think would neutralize their style of defense?
Depends on where the blitz is coming from. As far as running the football, if you're running inside zone, you want to run away from the blitz. If you're running outside zone, you want to run into the blitz. And the reason for that is when you're running outside zone, you run into the blitz, the D-line is slanting, you're able to get that cut off, especially on the backside, and then you're able to hit it from there. On the passing side of things, we're just going to have to be able to hold up in protection. And if they're bringing more than we got, a check down is a win, where some hot route that the receiver's watching that outside linebacker creep, and he knows if he's coming, all right, I'm hot, and it's all about your film study and knowing who that is and what route he's running and things like that. I mean, the quarterbacks, I do not envy those guys. They have so much to think about. I mean, you try to take some of it off with the center, but depending on the team and the coordinator, I mean, some teams give it all to the quarterbacks. Like the Patriots gave it all to I mean, obviously they had the GOAT for so long that's just how that organization was run, where Brady did everything. But like you saw a clip, or I saw one on Instagram a couple weeks ago, where it's a play action pass and he's telling Leonard Fournette what the coverage is on his way back, where it's just like, all right, you got a guy that can do that. You're going to win some serious ball games. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
I missed this one earlier, but Coucham, if we get a lot of rain and thus a reduced crowd, how will that affect players psychologically? Will they excuse the showing due to rain or be disappointed?
I halfway think that Sonny Dykes left because homecoming in 2021 against USF, there was like 15,000 people there the week after we beat TCU. But no, I mean, it sucks, but at some point you're just like, whatever about attendance as a player. I mean, you'd love it for it to be rocking and loud every week at home, but you got a job to do either way, regardless if there's, only Paul Lane at Tulane or if it's a packed house, at Michigan.
for what it's worth, student section tickets sold out in 19 minutes, and one of the ticket guys tweeted that there are only 1,000 tickets left. So
I think we're kind of past some of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the crowd's going to be big enough that it's not going to be, as Bill and I like to say, dozens of fans.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a crowd for a top 20 matchup that is tiny.
Right.
That makes it weird. I mean, unless we're talking serious weather delay, all the worst things happen in the world on weather front, but that's just me.
My wife works the next morning at 5 a.m. If that happens, I'm sending her home in an Uber and I'm staying.
There you go. We can post-game pod after that at like 3 a.m. All right, here we go. It is homecoming week. This is a good one to end on. Mustangs 2018. Friend of the program, give us your dream Boulevard tent setup, location, food, drinks, entertainment setup, etc.
So location, I'm going to go at the corner of Bishop where the indoor facility is. So you're pretty much right in the middle. You know, you get to see everything. I would have the blow-up helmet. So shout out to those guys who have that. I would have that on site. I would have Terry Black's barbecue.
Okay.
And entertainment-wise, probably just have some games on, honestly. Just watching the other games of college football. Have, four TVs or whatever all tuned into different games and some pony pills.
Yeah, I love your location. I'm right there with you. I would use Smoke Provisions, friend of the program, who has done some catering that you've had as well.
Yep.
For the Boulevard setup. The biggest thing is that you've got to have every single drink imaginable.
Yeah,
mimosas, 100%. The whole beer lineup, vodka, some margaritas going. I think you got to have the Mambo taxi machine. If I get a game day where I'm not working and was just enjoying, I would 1,000,000% want either a large Mambo taxi machine going or some sort of mixed drink that is heavily weighted in the other way. And then I'm with you on the TVs, and you got to have country music bumping.
Yeah.
Sure. But not like live music. The live music is too aggressive.
It is, and I respect the group that does it down on the
they're good
on the south end. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's just, for me, it's too much stuff going on all at once.
Yeah. Break it out. That's where, if SMU ever gets in another 11 a.m. home game again, because right now they're on a roll. But they got to get a little post Boulevard action. So with that, that concludes our mailbag and our podcast this week. We've kept people going on long enough, Hayden, but we've got a fun one this weekend. I will see you out there, and it's going to be a fun one. That's all we can say.
It's going to be a blast. Can't wait. It's going to be a big one, but
I hope you guys enjoy homecoming, and we will for sure. And we will have all your coverage at On the Pony Express and on theponyexpress.com. So for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you guys next time on another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.